WEAV stands for Web-Based Analysis and Visualization Environment, free to public and nonprofit users in the beginning of 2011. In this brief video, I will demonstrate some of the functionality of the visualization environment using the Millennium Development Goals. Let me begin by explaining the different panels you see on the screen. The panel on the upper left is a map tool, colored in this instance by the ratio of employment to population in 2009, as indicated by the legend right here. I can zoom in and out, select specific regions, and create subsets out of them or exclude them. This button on the bottom left allows me to edit the geographic layers on the map. For instance, I can add a layer of state borders in the United States from the selection I have here. I can change the indicator coloring the map by clicking either on the legend or using the color map and histogram tool by clicking on the indicator. In each case, I will get a window showing the data designated to this particular session. Here, I have the entire set of the Millennium Development Goals from the World Bank data catalog, organized according to the categorization provided by the United Nations. This hierarchy is completely flexible and can be easily altered in WEAV. By clicking on a different indicator, we can see that the coloring in the whole interface changes. This tool is also a histogram, showing the number of records for values encompassed by a certain bin. The number of bins can be increased or decreased right here. This allows more flexibility in using the colors in the visualization to capture varieties in the data. The color schemes can be easily changed right here. As you can see, there's a wide selection of colors. Including one for the colorblind, linear gray. The tool in the upper right panel is a scatter plot. Each point represents a record in the data, which in this case is a particular country. In this instance, we are looking at the ratio of employment to population 2009 for females on the x-axis, the proportion of seats held by women in national parliaments in 2009 on the y-axis. The third dimension here is the color. As in the other tools, we can change the indicators on the axes by clicking on the indicator next to each axis. As I change the indicators, a regression line is automatically drawn on the scatter plot. The panel on the bottom left is a bar chart. The height represents the prevalence of HIV in 2009, sorted by the literacy rates for adults in 2009. Each bar represents a country. As you can see, all the tools in Weave are interactive, and I can select or exclude records using any tool. Weave is a powerful tool for the exploration and analysis of data. Looking at the scatter plot, we notice a relationship between the two variables and this particular observation. The country with the highest ratio of employment to population for females is Rwanda. It is also the highest proportion of seats held by women in the national parliament. To test this relationship, let us change the variable on the x-axis to the ratio of employment to population for both sexes. The pattern somewhat persists. However, if we look at the ratio of employment to population for males only, we can see that the relationship becomes negative. We can clearly see which countries have higher employment for males and lower proportion of seats held by women in their national parliaments. What this tells us, in the context of this particular observation, is that there does seem to be a relationship between higher employment for women in the labor market and seats held by women in the national parliament. Since Rwanda is an outlier, we can exclude it from the observation to get a better sense of the distribution of other records. We can see that in this particular observation, Rwanda appears similar to Sweden, especially in terms of the seats held by women in the national parliament. Let us add a fourth dimension to the scatter plot. By clicking on Show Controls at the bottom of the panel, we can add a dimension indicated by the size of the points. To determine which indicator is signified by the size, we can simply click on the indicator. Now we get the same attribute selected. In this instance, the size represents the completion rate of primary schooling in 2009. We can see that Rwanda has a primary completion rate of 53.98 compared to 94 in Sweden. Nevertheless, Rwanda has much higher ratio of employment to population for females than does Sweden, 81 in Rwanda compared to 53 in Sweden. Within the context of this observation, this raises questions on the nature of employment in Rwanda and economic sectors behind such high rates of employment for females. Moving to the bar chart, we can notice that countries with high prevalence of HIV also have low rates of literacy. However, we can see that this group of countries here breaks the pattern. We can create a subset and look closely at them. We can easily export images of a particular panel or the entire application by right-clicking on the interface. We can export a particular panel, which we click on, or the entire application. All the panels can be resized, minimized, and moved. We can also add more tools. A time-slotted tool to look at longitudinal trends in the data. Data table. In the time-slotted tool, I can go directly to a certain year, control the speed, and run it by clicking the play button. A more recent version of Weave is under development, adding a variety of features including those we have just used. Interactive tools, selections out of any tool, and so on. As you can see, the list of tools in this version is much longer. The feature I want to focus on in this version is the integration of the R statistical package with the visualization environment. The R script editor contains a text area to input R scripts, a text area to assign names for columns in Weave, import and export buttons, a column selector tool to add columns for script, and a result box. For instance, I can import a script to test correlation between two or more variables. To choose variables, I can click on the Open Selector button and either drag the attributes or click Add Selected Columns, population and employment ratio to population 2009 in this example. The two attributes I have selected are signified by X and Y, corresponding with the script right here. To run the script on these columns, I will simply click View and Send, and I will get my results in the results box, right here. Computations performed in this feature can be added to the data as columns and then used as variables that can color the map, added to the scatter plot, and so forth. Weave nears its first release to the public, allowing the visualization of data by anyone, anywhere, anytime. Visit our website for updates and demonstrations at www.openindicators.org.